Edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Also broadcasting on AM 950 in Minneapolis, AM 1520 and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com and follow me on all of the socials. Yep, from X to Spoutable and everything in between. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Shoes, Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito of Live, Local, and Progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. No need to overly focus on stupid, but it's the Democracy Stupid. Out Chicago and our other great shows and interviews and segments. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to catch our posts and articles that are there. One of the things that is really good about Heartland Signal is that it's up to date, and there are articles about the Heartland, the greater Midwestern states, but they're oftentimes topics that are ones that are relevant in other states, and particularly when it comes to what state legislatures are doing. So here's one to check out for our folks up in Minnesota, from our folks in Minnesota in terms of the state legislatures. State Senator Alice Mann, DFL from Edina, says under the One Big Beautiful Bill, 62,000 Minnesotans will lose health coverage over insurance and market because of insurance and market increases. And another 150,000 will lose Medicaid coverage due to stricter eligibility requirements. Why don't we just make it easier for folks to get coverage? Make stricter eligibility requirements. That just puts more pressure on people to find another way to spend more of their money to take care of their health. So good article for you guys to check out there. Let's see. Malcolm Kenyatta talking about equal rights bill in Pennsylvania. He's a state rep there. You've heard his name before. Quotes James Baldwin and saying says he won't agree to disagree. I like that. When people say, let's agree to disagree, oftentimes I take the position of, no, I still disagree. Let's agree to disagree. No, we don't have to disagree. First of all, we can agree on something and we can move forward. And I think that's oftentimes what people are talking about when they say, finding common ground, and we have more to like than we don't like. At the same time, if someone is disagreeable or says something that I don't agree with fully, I'm not just going to lay down my sword, so to speak, to get along because the person's being offensive. And I think that when I saw this, and I was reminded of what the late James Baldwin said. What also came to mind is right now, the Republican Party in its entirety is disagreeable. They are disagreeable politicians. They may not be disagreeable people in their personal lives, but they are disagreeable politicians. And as Democrats, as progressive liberal Democrats, anywhere in the country, we individually have to do our part. And part of our part is to inspire, to push, to cajole all of the folks that are in office, that are our elected officials on the Democratic side. We have that's part of one of our biggest responsibilities right now, I believe, is we have to be willing to push them and keep pushing them and remind them that we're going to push them some more. And sometimes that it's not that it's hard, but sometimes it becomes a little tedious, maybe is the better word to use, but it still has to happen. We still have to keep finding the ways. I thought about this a lot over the weekend. We still have to keep finding the ways to angle in and stress the importance to our elected officials on all levels, local, state, and federal, that they were elected to go there and get stuff done. And we have to keep pushing them to do that. I know that it's something you heard me say many, many times, and I'll say it many, many times again, is that it does in many ways, it starts with us. And I know that it's easy to say, well, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. And that's true. And along with that, and we have to make sure that we're stepping up. Because here's what's happening. You look at, and the reason you can put some meat on this bone, if you will, is that look at the rallies, the protests that take place. That the elected officials are recognizing that the protests have had impact. And many of them have changed their tune after seeing what protests can do and how, in many cases, they are directed toward Trump and the administration and all the rest of the GOP. But they're also targeting Democrats to say, come on, guys, let's work a little bit harder, a little bit more effectively on all levels. So right now, I think that disagreeable Republicans have to be called out. Disagreeable Republicans have to be stepped up to and talked to. And we have to make sure that they know that we aren't going to take any more of the garbage that they're putting out. And we still have to remind our own team, okay, lace up those sneakers. Let's get the job done. It's meant this morning to be a little bit of out of the gate inspirational words for us to keep reminding ourselves that we can get these things done, that we can win these fights if we keep ourselves focused on the fact that a lot of this starts with us. Nobody take that as me pointing fingers at the voters. I've gotten texts over the last number of months that say you're blaming the voters. Well, I'm not blaming the voters, but I'm also saying we can't let ourselves off the hook by not doing the work that's required to get the job done. And part of that job getting done is to push the elected officials to keep doing the work that they're doing, and let's find additional and more creative ways to get more things done. That's what I'm saying. So take that to heart and take that as a bit of encouragement rather than something that sounds like I'm blaming the voters. All right, on today's show, Molly Schneider, who is running for Ohio, is a candidate running for state legislature in Ohio. She was with us a few weeks ago, and I said then, Molly, we'd like to have you back before your election. Today, she'll be with us in the 6:30 hour to talk about that. And then Chris Hayes from MS Now will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour, talking all things politics and the time he spent with MSNBC, now MS Now. And then in the 7:30 hour, Mike Nellis, political strategist, will be with us. So we know we're going to be talking all things politics and the insanity of the GOP. So looking forward to having our guest on with us this morning. I hope everybody had a good weekend, whatever good is defined in your own words and meaning. But I hope everyone anywhere in the country that's listening had a good weekend and, got some of the things done that we don't get to do until the weekend is upon us. That leads me to a question of the day for Monday. So we talk a lot about the Iran war, and I've presented you guys with a number of different numbers that break down, the amount of money that we're spending. Last week, $25 billion is a number that the Secretary of Defense's Assistant Secretary of Defense said was a number, but that was through the end of March. So now we're heading into the first full week of May. So we know that number is probably another 25 to maybe 40% higher, maybe 50% higher, pushing it to close to, $40 to $45 million, depending. So we know that those costs are there. And we know the ancillary costs that are out there in terms of what we're not spending, where we should be spending it. And I've talked about that and what we could be doing with that money and what could be happening in different communities. But I'd like to ask you guys this question, because sometimes we're at 10,000 feet with certain things. So I'm going to bring it right down to your neighborhood, to your street, to ask you, what has this war in Iran cost you personally? What direct cost can you feel? There's some obvious ones. I don't want to tip the scale, but there may be some ones that we don't know about. So I want to hear from you guys in whatever manner you choose, whether you call in, whether you text, or if you post your comments on Facebook. What has this war in Iran cost you personally? And, are there or have there been any direct cost to your budget that you can feel, that you can share with us? Because I'm very curious, want to talk about that and get a little bit more information from you on that. So let us know how that's, what's impacted your world directly and specifically by giving us a call at 773-763-9278, sending us a text to that same number, or going to our WCPT Heartland Facebook page. That being said, guys, we're going to take a little bit of a break. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. You're listening to Chu's Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I am Richard Chu, and we'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
Do you have another caller? Hello?
Hello there. It's Steve from the Gold Coast, Warren.
Steve Giovano. What do you know, kiddo?
Hey.
How are you?
There you go. Good. Warren, great guy, knows his business. I mean, you know, from the business side of it to the mechanics. Like I said, known the guy for 20 years. I mean, we met. We were both seeing the same woman. I happen to be married to her, but hey, you can.
What is happening? What
No. It was all clean.
just got spilled. Hold on. I gotta get
Hey, you can't, but you can't put a price on a guy who, like Warren. I mean, she can go, but I mean, you know.
You're hilarious, Steve.
No, I'm joking.
It's a joke.
Can we mark that as a clip for Warren's show from here on out?
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Mike's on, truth's out. This is Chu's Views with Richard Chu.
Yeah, we're bringing you the truth this morning, guys, and hoping that you can settle in for the next little bit, and we can chat about a little bit of everything, and we'll try to get your calls in as once we get a little bit more information. But let's end up with a couple of quick Chu's Views news this morning, and shout out to Whitney and to Devin and to Mike. Cannot forget them. On this May 4th, 2026, Spirit couldn't survive Iran's war's economic effects. The top carriers scrambled over the weekend to support the stranded Spirit Airlines passengers and employees as the troubled company canceled flights in the first step toward winding down that airline. Spirit's collapse has seen as the industry's first casualty linked to the Iran war, according to Reuters, as elevated jet fuel prices pushed the budget airline to a breaking point after a years-long slide that included 2 bankruptcy filings in 2025. A White House effort to save Spirit fell through at the 11th hour, according to the Wall Street Journal. It was interesting, and this will be one of the things we're going to talk about with Mike Nellis. But again, they tried to blame the Biden administration. You know, always Biden's fault, but not the fact that the war and the cost of fuel is at the tip of the spear for all of the airlines that are having increases and struggles. So there you go. Office demand is rising despite economic uncertainty. Demand for office space is bouncing back with new office tours hitting their highest point since the beginning of the pandemic, according to CNBC. The VTS Office Demand Index climbed 13% in the first quarter of 2026 compared to the same period last year. New York City and San Francisco are driving demand fueled by AI industry job growth. The gains are especially notable given the office-based employment remains below 2022 levels and broader economic uncertainty, including the war in Iran, continues to weigh on business confidence. The wage gap widens between CEOs and private sector staff. The compensation gap between CEOs and workers is widening worldwide, according to a new report from Oxfam and the International Trade Union Confederation. Over the last year in the United States, CEO pay rose roughly 20 times faster than that of other employees. 2024 and 2025, the average hourly wage for American workers in the private sector grew by 1.3%, while for CEOs, it's up some 25.6%. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. In February, a survey of U.S. consumers, 65% said price increases were outpacing their income. So let's match that up. Once again, we hear this all the time. Republicans want to talk about, and if you do the loose survey, look at some of the data from different companies, you'll see that the majority of C-suite top 10% employees with major corporations, what's the definition of major? The Fortune 500 and 1,000 are the largest donors to Republican candidates on a state level and on a federal level. Those are the same ones that are suppressing wage increases. Meanwhile, a CEO gets a 25.6% increase. That's insane, y'all. That's absolute insanity. So Republicans and even some of the moderate Democrats that won't do the work to push higher taxes on corporations, it's a bunch of garbage. There's no CEO that I know that we hear about 25% increase. Anyhow, facing a turbulent world, CEOs embrace resilience on the other side of this. Changing tariffs, surging energy prices, a global pandemic. The last 6 years have thrown a slew of challenges at chief executives, and many have landed on one solution: resilience. Well, you might learn something from your middle-income employees, because that's how they live. Since January of 2020, mentions of the word have jumped 162% on the earnings calls of the nation's biggest companies. In practice, that means building more flexible, adaptable organizations. It also requires strong communication skills so everyone can understand the mission, according to surveys from Tapestry's Joan Kreuzersat. In short, today's leaders must use both the accelerator and the brake. How about paying people more, whether you use the accelerator or the brake? YouTube has pervaded American schools, and it's raising an alarm. Seemingly omnipresent in the classroom, YouTube has been, and it's now beginning to be seen as, for everything from math games to story time, has opened the door for students to get sucked into an infinite scroll of videos on school-issue devices, according to the Wall Street Journal. While YouTube says administrators can restrict access, students often bypass filters, leading to excessive screen time. In one case, over 13,000 videos in 3 months. Families, teachers, and clinicians warn of detrimental effects on learning and well-being, and some have called for rollbacks of the use of technology in education. It's an easy fix. If there were a pipe broken in the school, they'd have to fix it, get rid of that pipe. I mean, it's oversimplification, but we've educated generations without the use of YouTube in the classroom. And I'm not taking away from the beauty of technology in our educational systems. And later this week, we'll be talking with Dr. Jessica Hawk, my teacher face. Well, we have to be a little bit more practical, use a little bit more sense when it comes to technology in classrooms. We just do. Doesn't mean we can't use it, shouldn't use it. We talked last week to Doctors Anthony Douglas and Dr. Thomas Fisher, two surgeons that recognize the importance of technology in medicine. But it's a tool to assist, not to dominate the work that they do. And I think in our classrooms, we've got to hold the line there. We have to use the tools as an assistant. It can't be the dominant thing. I really believe that is one of the reasons it's a part of a whole, pot of goulash or gumbo, if you will, of things that we want to lean into and work to fix. Technology is a great tool in our lives. I asked this question last week about AI. However, it cannot and should not be the driving force. We should be teaching technology versus using technology as a skip for education. And it starts, this is going to sound, well, I'm just going to say it. It starts with telling folks no. It starts with telling the companies that want to sell the equipment so that every student in the school has an iPad or a device. Let me take iPad out of the equation, but has a device. It starts there. School districts, I believe, need to be more willing to say we have to regulate and get back to certain things that we know work in our school systems that are tried and true, and then have these tools as assistants too. How about having computer labs. How about that, where students can take classes in proficiency in the areas? Let's get back to using that, kind of like reinstating shop class. Well, let's reinstate teaching technology as part of the curriculum, where then students can use devices as part of the class that they're in, rather than it being something that's on their desk while the teacher is in the front of the class trying to teach. The teacher can use technology to illustrate the lesson. But I think, and I'm not a teacher, I'm not an educator, but I would not want students in my class looking down at the device, rather than, what's on the board or on the screen. Use technology, but not to the point where students are spending that much time. So it's not just YouTube. There are other players in this conversation. And I think that we, particularly in the public school system, should be more willing to push back and say no. And, people might say, well, Richard, what about, how, if we're not letting our kids, and that's the key word, letting our kids have these devices and be able to use them, they're going to fall behind. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's a change in curriculum. It's a change in the way that we administer the use of them. So call me crazy, call me old school. You might be right in both, but I'll take that label, because there's a great amount of old school that's gotten us to a point where we've done pretty damn good as a society. Some of the things that we've gotten that have gotten us into trouble is getting away from some of the things that we know worked, and we change for the sake of the dollar. So that's my pushback on the capitalist side of how we are. Let's get back to some things that work. Let's get back to the things that we know work in school systems. And technology, I'm going to say it a bunch of times for the long haul, it's a tool to help us. It is not the thing. So let's start saying no to some of these things that are coming into our school systems. Let's give our administrators, like we give our politicians, support and push them and needle them. Let's do the same thing with our school administrators. And that's not a local thing. That's a U.S. thing. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. I saw that article and I was a little hesitant. Then I thought, nah, I'm going to talk about this a little bit this morning. All right, because that's a choose item for sure. Here are some news items that I thought would be worthy of talking about. Just some quick highlights. I said this earlier. This administration once again is blaming. They're blaming Joe Biden. According to Spirit Airlines, rising fuel prices caused by Trump's war is the final blow for their business. But the administration is still blaming Joe Biden. And Sean Duffy, what a weak A. He's the Secretary of Transportation. He gave a weird explanation saying that they couldn't come up with the deal to save Spirit Airlines. And again, they were trying to find a way to blame this on Joe Biden. I thought you guys were the badasses and you're going to fix everything on day one or the first day of a problem. You're a bunch of piebacks. You're a bunch of because they won't tell the truth. They won't acknowledge the fact that the increase in gas prices as a result of this war, fuel prices across the board. And what did I say? Airlines are going to be the ones that suffer in terms of the business category. There you go. But they're just piebacks. They don't have any way of saying this is a problem that we may have contributed to. So there you go. We're going to take a quick break, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and now AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southwest increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy with a low near 52. Tuesday, another chance for rain, cloudy skies, a high 56 degrees. And Wednesday, partial sunshine, a high of 57. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 48.
Tolerance is accepting someone before they walk through the door.
It's about accepting people for who they are as individuals.
Tolerance is celebrating the diversity that makes us great.
Tolerance. Honor the differences.
Picture a world of respect. Visit tolerance.org to learn more.
A frog in boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As veterans, we tell ourselves the lie that we can handle anything. We let the water boil. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container, because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Just now, another kid dropped out of school. There's one every 20 seconds.
If we do nothing, 3.5 million kids won't receive a diploma over the next 4 years. But there is someone who can change that. You. United Way knows that kids who have a caring adult in their life are more likely to make it. So make a pledge. Tutor. Mentor. Volunteer to read with children. And the difference between a dropout and a graduate could be you. Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
We may be waking up, but we're still engaged. It's Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome back to the show. Good to be with you this morning. And I hope everybody is doing well. Welcome back to the show. I'm Richard Chew. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Chew's Views. And wow, what can I tell you? Local elections, they really matter. They do. I've been saying it for a long time. Our state elections are incredibly important. Our state legislators are, without them, we don't have that foundation that I talk about. And it's interesting. I was I'll go ahead and introduce our guest, and then I want to come back and talk about something. Molly Schneider is running for the Ohio House of Representatives, and we're excited for her because she's going to be one of those candidates that wins, that gets in there and shakes some things up. So it's good to have Molly back with us. She was with us a few weeks ago, and I said, Molly, you got to come back. She said, no, Richard, I'm going to be too busy. I got lots of things going on. Molly, welcome back to Choose Views.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for having me back again. I'm glad to be here the day before election here in Ohio.
Well, I wanted to try to thread the needle as best we could to get you back on before. I know you had a lot going on, so we'll be as efficient as we can. Molly, talk to us a little bit about how your campaign is going, how the race is going at this day before the actual election.
So I'm feeling really good. I feel that our team has left nothing on the table. We have built an amazing coalition across 3 counties. This is a district that's in 3 different counties. And so to just work and get your name out there, you really got to build a team of support in each one of those communities. And I have done that. We have done that. And people have been out there nonstop. So it feels really good right now.
That's good to hear. Before we came on, one of the things that I was talking about is this article about the influence of YouTube in the classrooms, and I broadened it into the conversation around technology in the classrooms. And then one of our engineers, Mike Mercado, and I were talking during the break about the reduction, the increase of students per teacher, or reduction of students, teacher per students in classrooms. You were part of that, and I know that's been a big part of your campaign in terms of how we've got to. You're as it says in your material, you're the educator's voice for Ohio. So let's talk a little bit about that as part of your platform and what you want to see when it comes to that better balance in the school systems there.
Yeah, so I think with everything that goes into the classroom, it has to be a healthy balance, right? We want to educate our students so that they are prepared for what is coming next regarding technology, AI, the jobs. But at the same time, they cannot replace the human interactions that are going on. I always talk about students need to be prepared or we need to keep focusing on the human skills. We can't lose those because those are going to be so important in whatever they do next. And one of the things I'm concerned about, and this kind of ties back to one of my big talking points, is that if we are taking away more school funding at the state level, if local communities are having a hard time passing levies, then schools they go in scramble mode, and they are cutting programs, they are cutting teachers, they are cutting the ability to prepare students in an effective way versus trying and really worrying about how are they taking care of the basics versus how are we educating students for the future.
Yeah. I think that one of my big concerns right now, and I said this, that we have a large amount of investment to make in education, and I think it starts with making sure that on a day-to-day basis, our students are learning, learning things that are going to propel them and give them the foundational pieces that are important, and using technology as a tool to go along with that. And I said that, if we want to teach technology, let's teach it in a formal class rather than having it just be the ride along in the classroom where the teacher has to deal with the distraction of the student looking at the device. And I'm not a teacher, I'm not an educator, but I feel for the teachers who are navigating that back and forth. But you've really made it clear to the folks there in Ohio, and specifically in your district, that you're going to fight for this for the teachers as well as for the students. So it's so great to hear you staying committed to that.
Yes, absolutely. So important.
Yeah. So, all right. This Ohio, like the rest of the country, is dealing with the national issues, Molly, that we can't bury our heads in the sand. And just recently, the Supreme Court drove a major wedge through voting in the country, voting it specifically with what's going on down in Louisiana. And we've seen other states that are already sort of picking up the mantle and doing what they can to make it worse and harder and more difficult for people to vote. in their states. What are you hearing? What are the rumblings that you're hearing in Ohio? Are there, what's going on in that space?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that changed recently in our election laws is that all absentee ballots have to come in on election day. If they are coming into the Board of Elections after that day, even if they have that postmarked, it does not count. And the time that this was changed, the language that it is being used to talk to voters about this, it becomes so convoluted. It becomes so hard to read that people become concerned and then decide, well, maybe it's just best to stay home this election. Or am I going to try to get to the early voting at the polls? Or is it the best day on election day? So just the added steps that are constantly being put into place, the rules, the language that are being changed, just make it hard and make people really unsure if that is what they really, or really concerned that they're going to mess up. So maybe it's best to just stay at home. And honestly, like a lot of both the national laws, the policies that are happening in Ohio, they do pinpoint and target individual groups, right? Groups that have been marginalized, rural Ohioans that may not have access to a Board of Elections super close, older Ohioans. So there's just people that are gonna disproportionately be hurt by these policies that mean that our elections are less democratic.
Yeah, I wonder about that in states where there's a large rural component. One thing that's interesting, it's always been interesting about the state of Ohio, is that you've got, 5 cities that have populations in excess of 150,000 citizens. So as much, I think I got my numbers fairly close. Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Columbus, and I think is it Dayton? So, or Toledo. I think Toledo's a little bit larger than Dayton. And then Dayton's right behind. So you've got really 6 cities with, that have, urban populations. But then you have a number of rural communities that are not just impacted by some of the federal things that are happening, but now some of the state things are really kind of draining a lot of the political will out of folks in the state of Ohio. And that's just tough to see. How are you navigating through that and running for this office? And what do you want to do to kind of bring back people to the point you were making earlier about folks that might feel disenfranchised, might feel less likely or willing to participate? How are you going to navigate that to bring people back into the process of voting and being politically active?
I think it's understanding their frustration. They are clearly frustrated with some of the policies going on. And when we've been out talking with voters the last couple of weeks, especially here in Ohio, there's one of the petitions going around is to ban property taxes. They're saying that is going around because voters are frustrated. And one of the messages I keep asking is, or questions I want to keep asking is, why do we keep voting for the same politicians for almost 2 decades who aren't doing anything for your everyday lives? They hear some of the national talking points, and they're not paying attention to the local issues. And so talking to voters and saying, here is what I want to do for you. Here is how I want to bring relief to you on a local level with your utility costs, with the property tax, being able to fund the schools. Let's try to get politicians in there who want to build consensus on this, who want to compromise on these issues, and don't want to keep ignoring you as they have for the last almost 10 decades here in Ohio. And if the House Democrats can flip just a small handful of seats, we're going to break the supermajority. And we're going to be able to bring real compromise on some of these issues that are meaningful and, quite frankly, when you come down to it, nonpartisan. And if you speak to those voters on a daily basis, they're willing to give you a try. And I think running for state rep is almost one of the last levels in which you can engage with your constituents on a very one-to-one level as much as possible.
So how is the Issue 1 initiative going to play into all of this? I saw you smile with that. How is that going to play into what you just described and what we talked about a moment ago?
Well, and so, I mean, people are really concerned, right? whether or not that it's going to get on the ballot at this point, or if it does, is it going to pass? What does that mean for not only schools, but so many of the local communities? When we talk about what are the different things that are paid for with that, including the county support, not only for fire and service, the health districts, some of the veteran supports come out of the counties and stuff. And if that money is not being kept in the local communities, it's being sent down to Columbus. And they're not necessarily doing the best job with that, giving billions of dollars in tax cuts and relief to the most wealthy while not caring about those individuals. So they're going to lose the local control over their funding. And then they're going to have it in Columbus where people are just not going to be putting it towards their best interests.
We're going to take a quick break, Molly. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with candidate for Ohio, Molly Schneider. We'll be right back.
If you're struggling to hear conversations, TV, or the people you love, now there's an easier, more affordable solution without spending thousands. Audion Hearing makes high-quality, rechargeable hearing aids starting at just $98, free shipping, and dedicated one-on-one support in the comfort of your own home. No doctor's offices, no pressure. Clearer hearing delivered right to your door. Join over 1 million happy customers hearing life more clearly. Visit audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
WCPT replay. I hear a lot of people saying that they hate Illinois. They hate Cook County. They literally, you can just see the passion and the anger when they talk about that. I can't wait to move away. And everybody talks about getting out of the state, which, and I'll be honest with you, I love it here. But yet our house is still a seller's market. There's still more people that want to move in than are moving out. I mean, if so many people are leaving our state, then wouldn't the buyers have more power?
A lot of it has to do with how people identify. People's identity, the things they most cherish. And if you identify as someone who is conservative, you will look at some of the legislation that's been passed, pro-LGBTQ, pro-DEI, whatever other buzzwords that people on the right side of the political spectrum like to point at that are, to them, that are negative values that our government and the majority of our people find enough value in it to protect it, abortion rights, whatever it is.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Don't hit that snooze button. It's time for Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Choose Views. I'm Richard Chu. And in case you just joined us, I am talking with Molly Schneider, who is running for Ohio House. Molly, the economically disadvantaged areas conversation in terms of issues there is a national issue. It's not just in Ohio. Mm-hmm. You guys are facing it, trying to face it head on. At least the Democrats are. Those that are in office and those like you who are running for office. Talk about where you stand and what you see or you feel needs to be looked at more closely when it comes to some of the resources for economically disadvantaged areas in the state.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be some type of relief that is being able to be offered to those individuals. Whether it is through property taxes is a great example of this. If there can be some type of expansion of homestead exemptions so that the people that have been in their homes for years have paid an interest rate that was super low when they purchased that home, and that tax value was at a certain level when they purchased that, should not have to burden the cost of that 20, 30 years later and not afford to stay in their homes anymore. So if there's some types of state exemption or homestead exemption that is offered to these types of individuals, that then the states can provide assistance to the school districts, to the municipalities, so that they're not losing out on any of those resources that may be coming from those individuals, but people can keep in their homes and have an affordability that keeps them in their lifestyle that is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, one of the things too, you got the Democrats are really leaning into this Ohio You Can Afford package, and it seems to me that that's really listening to the constituents, that's listening to the voters, that's listening, because that's a kitchen table issue. Tell our listeners all over a little bit more about the Ohio You Can Afford package and how really Democrats are taking the lead in that space.
Yeah, so really just trying to get at that affordability agenda when we are talking about childcare, healthcare, housing, utilities, consumer protections, making sure that relief is there for those individuals where they have seen that rising cost of living and the ability to pay for childcare really just start being stripped away. I have several friends, and we've struggled this with myself, and talking to voters out there that are really concerned about just being able to afford childcare when they are determining whether or not that they are able to work or to afford the daycare price and stuff. So I think if we really are focusing on those issues that people are feeling on that level and showing that the Democrats are the party that is going to really be focusing on these and wanting to support these issues, I think that's good. They're going to be very receptive to that.
The Democrats across the board, whether it be Ohio or throughout the rest of the country, have really been sort of the tip of the spear when it comes to paid family leave. And there in Ohio, once again, even though it's being presented as bipartisan, in actuality, the Democrats have led the charge in this space, and the Republicans have kind of jumped on board. Okay, if that's going to get the legislation across the finish line, great. However, once again, you guys, as strong Democrats in the state, have really been the ones to push for that. How has that been impactful in your campaign and this process?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I think is pretty effective is calling out what the Ohio legislator claims that it is doing right now in protecting children, that they are the ones that are wanting to provide what is best for children and protecting families and children in that way. But they're the ones that want to defund public schools. They're not addressing gun violence. They are focusing on issues that would ban drag shows versus looking at ways in which we can feed children at the school level or making food available at the schools and stuff. So by claiming that they are this, but then talking with voters about the laws and the bills that they're attempting to pass, they see that reality. They see kind of the lunacy of what they're saying and what they're actually doing, which then provides a great outlet for us to be able to talk. We are the ones that want to help out with paid family leave. We want to provide better resources for childcare and healthcare costs and lower your utility costs. And by just showing that, quite frankly, that insanity at that level, the voters get it. They're not dumb. They understand that and they feel that.
I think that I love the pause that you gave there, but I think that that's what we have to say more across the board, whether it be Ohio, Illinois, or any other state in the country, is that the Republicans are the ones that have to be brought on board for a lot of legislation for people in their districts, whether it be a U.S. congressional district or a state district, that we come up with the ideas. And I've said this for a long time, our ideas are better. And we work toward getting them implemented. And oftentimes, if there is a majority to the right, they get thwarted because the Republicans never had any ideas in the first place. I try to come up with this all the time, Molly. Name me some good ideas that Republicans on a state level or on a federal level have come up with that weren't things that took away from or are taking away from or are restricting the betterment of the district. And I always struggle with that. Then I look at Democrats and I go, oh, yeah, we came up with this idea. We came up with that idea. This is going to make things better for people. It's going to give and provide and support. And I think that's a significant difference. As we wrap up, talk about why, I mean, those are my words. I don't not putting words in your mouth, but talk about how you see that, which I just stated.
Yeah, so I firmly believe that the Democratic platform and what we try to do here at the state level, at the national level, it really does promote and support the dignity of every human being, right? And it's so many of the policies that the Republicans have done at the national level, state level, local level have been cruel and have not really lifted as many individuals as they can. And I completely agree that I think Democrats give those or are supporting those policies that want to provide more, that are looking out for all groups and are inclusive and really are just supporting the dignity of all. And I mean, that's one of the big words I've been focusing on and throughout this campaign is that dignity, right? And what does that mean for every person that we want to support and who we want to be a part of our agenda and who we want to work for.
Yeah, and it's working for the citizens and the voters that helped get you there in the first place. So as we wrap up, Molly, the campaign is going well. We're in the last, day of the race. So what are you excited about? How are you feeling? And then of course let folks know how they can still get involved with what they might be able to do at this last, kind of 11th hour time frame.
Yeah, so obviously if they're in my district, please pull a Democratic ballot. That is extremely important. The way that the primaries are set up here in Ohio, you are voting on the Republican ballot, the Democratic ballot, or issue only. But doesn't matter what party affiliation you have, you can go and pull that ballot. So I'm just encouraging everyone, even if those who don't identify as a Democrat, pull this Democratic ballot. And get me on the ballot in November, because I do believe that I have the best shot of flipping the district once we get to that November election. Feeling really good about what we're doing. We're knocking the last doors throughout today and really just having our team out there at the polling places tomorrow to just give that one last presence in the community throughout all the cities in the district, and just showing that we have been there from the beginning and we'll be there until the polls close, and feel pretty confident about the support and everything we're doing.
And they can follow you at this last minute by going where?
Yes, mollyforohio.com. And that would be both on Facebook and on my website.
Fantastic. Molly Schneider, we wish you all the success so that we can flip one more district in the state of Ohio and just keep building on that. So
absolutely.
We look forward to having you back on again after you pull off this big win. So Molly, thanks for taking some time to hang out with us, and good luck today and tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. It was great being on.
All right. Good to be with you again. Talk to you soon. Bye now. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM for Warren County, North Carolina, as well as our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we'll be right back.
What if you didn't follow the path everyone else takes? Would you rather make your own way or spend your life saying, what if? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps. To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or go to peacecorps.gov.
Computers are a wonderful tool, but every day children are sexually solicited online. Protect your kids online. Visit cybertipline.com. Help delete online predators. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Anorexia nervosa is a serious, potentially life-threatening eating disorder. Dr. Cheryl De La Sega from Penn State College of Medicine says it's a little hard to predict who will develop it.
Mothers get hit pretty hard and blamed pretty heavily, but it seems like there's much more evidence that genetic causes and biologic mechanisms that get kicked into play when the starvation mode is reached are stronger predictors.
But she says there is hope for those with an eating disorder.
It's very treatable. About 60% of eating disorders that end up in treatment can be made better, if not helped completely. Not many girls voluntarily go into treatment. Many, many times, no one even knows. And that's how anorexia and bulimia have power, by being kept secret.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Amazon Business. Discover smart business buying, where unmatched selection meets AI-driven tools to simplify complex processes, so you can focus on what matters most. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southwest increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy with a low near 52. Tuesday, another chance for rain, cloudy skies, a high 56 degrees. And Wednesday, partial sunshine, a high of 57. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 52.
NBC News Radio, I'm Rob Martier. President Trump says the United States will begin escorting commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. He announced that the escorts will start Monday, describing the move as a request from several unnamed countries not directly involved in the fighting, and asked Washington for assistance to move through the waterway. Trump said the move is for the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the U.S. The operation will be called Project Freedom, with Trump saying there were still discussions ongoing with Iran that could lead to something very positive for all. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani has been hospitalized and is in critical condition. Jonathan O'Halloran reports.
A spokesman for Giuliani said in a statement that he was stable, with no update given as to what happened. The statement went on to say that Giuliani is, quote, a fighter who has faced every challenge in his life with unwavering strength, and he's fighting with that same level of strength as we speak. In New York, I'm Jonathan O'Halloran.
President Trump said on Truth Social that Giuliani was a true warrior and the best mayor in New York City history. He served as mayor from 1994 to 2001. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says gas prices will come down once the Strait of Hormuz is open. Duffy joined ABC's This Week.
But you're going to see, I think, immediate relief once the strait opens.
The prediction comes as drivers are still seeing prices at the pump continue to rise. AAA reports today's national average price for a gallon of regular gas is $4.44. That number is up around 35 cents from last week. 3 people are dead from a suspected hantavirus infection on a cruise ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Health officials say another 3 people are being treated with hantavirus confirmed in 1 case. Hantaviruses are spread by contact with rodents or their urine, droppings, and saliva. The CDC says it does not often spread via person-to-person contact. Rob Martier, NBC News Radio.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
WCPT Replay.
Joining us now is the brand new executive director of the Gender Cool Project, Chase Glenn.
I'm a trans man who grew up in a small conservative town in a pretty religious family, and this was back in the 70s and 80s when we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, necessarily a whole lot of support even for trans folks, and where I grew up, I didn't think I knew anyone who was trans, didn't hear any stories about trans folks. And so my upbringing really just, as I was able to discover who I was, just set me up for sort of understanding the importance of the support and the stories that organizations like Gender Cool tell.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Well, welcome back to Choose Views, guys. Thanks for being with us this morning. We have the opportunity, as we always do, to talk to really phenomenal folks that have been in the industry for a long time, that are voices that we've needed, and they've always stepped up. And one of those voices is someone that you guys are very, very familiar with. It's Chris Hayes, and he's obviously the host of All In with Chris Hayes. And I've been a fan of his work for a long time because he delivers the goods, and he has consistently done that. Through a lot of craziness that goes on in the world that he's in corporate media, in mainstream media. Chris, welcome to Choose Views, and thanks for taking some time to hang out with us today.
It's great to be here.
So I got to get after you, though, right out of the gate. Listen, man, I'm disappointed that you didn't agree with Senator Tim Scott when he tried to tell you that gas prices were going down. I was like, come on, Chris, just roll over, dude. Come on, man.
It's wild because it's like, there really is a difference between spinning and lying. You can spin, you can say, hey, look, the stock market's up, or you can say, hey, look, business investment is up. Those would be true statements that don't paint a complete picture. The one thing you can't say right now is that gas prices are coming down. But I guess that's what they're going to go with.
It's crazy. And I sometimes when I watch you and so many of our other folks that are on MS Now, we sit back and we do one of two things. We yell at the screen because we want to encourage you to push them harder. And we yell at the screen because we want them to stop lying when they have, the audacity or the craziness to do that. And but I appreciate you in teasing you. I appreciate the way in which you kind of handled that with Senator Tim Scott. So Chris, this is a question that is on really everybody's mind in the last 48 hours, and that's with regard to the SCOTUS gerrymandering decision. How has that impacted you? How have you looked at that? And in your years in this business and frankly, years as a citizen and with your parents' background and all the work that they've done, how did that impact you when this decision came down?
I mean, I think it's one of the most consequential decisions of my lifetime, unfortunately. I fear that it will be era defining. I mean, the only thing that I didn't want to do is catastrophize so much that we spun ourselves into a fetal position.
Right.
I talk about this all the time. And I talked about it on the show. I mean, we had two different eras of attempts at multiracial democracy, from basically, 1871 to 77, more or less 79. When we had actual congressional reconstruction, you had Black state legislators, senators, members of Congress. Like, you had registration levels in the Confederate South, what happened in the Confederate South, that had achieved parity between white and Black folks. And that was destroyed. It was destroyed by the Klan, by terrorism, and with the help of the Supreme Court. And it took till 1965 in the Voting Rights Act to get back to what had existed in the period after the Civil War. And now the court is doing it again. The second time now. that a reactionary court has come in to facilitate the purging, basically, of Black folks from full participation, even though we fought a war that cost 600,000 people their lives, and we have amendments to the Constitution explicitly guaranteeing those rights with an eye towards creating a true multiracial democracy against those who would stand in its way. And it's enraging.
One of the things that I've been saying the last couple of days, as much as I look at this as exactly from the lens that you just presented, I've also said that this is one of those domino moves that will impact other marginalized groups. I think it certainly opens the door to LGBTQ members of our society having the same liberty taken away from them. Women, we already know what's going on with the SAVE Act. Rural white folks, young folks are now at risk or at threat of what this can bring to their doorsteps. What are your thoughts there?
I think that's true in the broad sense, because I think that reactionary movements sort of work together, and they'll pick off whoever they can. I think in the context of the decision by the court, I think it's also Latinos that are obviously going to be the most effective. I mean, the same sort of logic and structures that were produced over time in the Voting Rights Act to create, districts where people could choose the sort of candidate of their choice, reflect their community, majority, minority, whatever you wanted to call it. Those led to huge surge in Latino, Hispanic, Chicano representation in the U.S. And, that might all go away for exactly the same reasons.
I think that's a big fear that we all have to talk about it. And clearly, the fear for a lot of people is they look back at the history of their family or their community and wonder, are they going, we hear this phrase oftentimes, my predecessors having more rights than I do. And we're certainly heading in that direction. So thank you for that. Chris, there's another thing that happened recently, and I know that you've had some, I guess you could say, personal and professional observations of this, and that's the administration deciding that they wanted to pick a fight with the Pope. And I mean, there's a few folks that I think we just should recognize that are hands off. And the person that's a leader of 1 billion people from a faith standpoint should be one of those people. How did that impact you? And what are your thoughts about that as we go forward?
I mean, the president is ridiculous. He is a child without regulation. It's enormous tragedy for the world that he's also air codes. I thought I actually found the post where he attacked the Pope as being, quote, weak on crime, genuinely hilarious. As if it was like the Pope, he was trying to run against the Pope for like a city council seat.
Right.
It's like, that's not the Pope. The Pope's neither weak on crime nor strong on crime. It's not the Pope's job to be either, actually. Just like it's not the church's, nor was it Jesus's. One thing I'll say about it is that I do think I found Pope Leo's papacy so far incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
I was raised in the church and fell away from it like many people do. My father was an Arian, so he was studied to be a priest for 6 or 7 years. Actually studied in Peru, where Pope Leo was, knows some of the same people.
Right.
And I found his witness of Christian vision incredibly profound and powerful, particularly at times when there is this nationalism on the rise. The best version of a religion like Catholicism is its universality and cosmopolitan. Is the idea that everyone is equal in the eyes of God. God cares for all of us. It doesn't matter where we happen to have been born. That's a direct repudiation to the kind of nationalism we see on the rise across the world, but particularly here in the U.S. And I've been very inspired by watching him witness to that.
Yeah, he has been. And I think those are the words that oftentimes this administration tries to take away, is the inspiration that comes from the people that might be viewed as a threat to their cause right now. Is let's go after the folks that have meaning and that are registering with and connecting with the people that we're trying to tear down. And it seems as though that the administration's policies, not even policies, but more of the executive order way of working, is designed to target those people. But I agree with you. I wasn't raised Catholic, but the meme that was out there on social media that, we ride at dawn. It's pretty true. I mean, I'm not Catholic. My wife is, but you don't mess with the Pope. Everybody knows the Pope. So I just thought, why pick a fight with that particular person just because? But I think we know why. But still,
he also I increasingly just come to really think that over the last, particularly this year of this administration, I think it was true from the beginning. He just doesn't care about public opinion anymore. The thing you got to think about him is there are two options. He's either term limited out, in which case he's a lame duck, or they're going to try to end American democracy as we know it. And in either of those cases, public opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So because it doesn't matter, right now it is evident as all get out that all he wants to do is look at blueprints of his ballroom.
Yeah.
You can't get him off the ballroom. All he wants to talk about is the ballroom. He's got a war still unresolved. So I just think that any instinct for public opinion, the median voter, is just completely gone, discarded.
Yeah, without a doubt. The Senate bill was good to go a few weeks ago, the DHS bill. And the House Republicans dragged their feet. And now we're back to where we started. And millions of people's lives have been affected by that, both financially, their time, their element of security or certainty in their minds. Businesses have struggled because those who traveled for business, all those pieces. So where do we go from here with this? Because nothing was gained. In fact, we lost some steps in this delay, I guess you could call it, when there was really no change fundamentally to the bill.
Fundamentally, I'm just glad they caved. Glad it quietly caved after 35 days.
After making all that noise, exactly. All that noise, all that.
Well, they said there was no way. They said it was dead on arrival, that they weren't going to pass a bill that funds everything but CBP and ICE. I'm also glad that the Democrats refused to be kind of pressured into voting for CBP and ICE funding. They got $80 billion plus in the monstrosity of a bill Republicans passed. There's still, I just saw a headline yesterday that the person that shot and killed Renee Good is back on the job somewhere.
I saw that. Yeah. At another location. They snatched him out of the harm's way, and then they replanted him someplace else. And it's not unlike, and you've talked about this in the past, police officers that end up being involved in a shooting in a community like Chicago, for example, or others. And, the police department sends them away or fires them.
Moves to another town.
And the guy that's what I believe happened with Laquan McDonald. He ended up doing a little bit of time, and now he's employed in another community. So that has to stop. That's another conversation for another day. But the House Republicans did not do anything that was beneficial to the country. They just sat and stalled and made it worse because people's lives were financially and otherwise impacted during that time. Chris, you, like so many that are part of the MS Now family, are directly and then I would say maybe peripherally dealing with something that I don't know where we go with this, and that's media consolidation. And, obviously this Paramount Disney deal, I think, is even bigger threat to democracy than folks are really talking about because of the message, where we're going to get our news and our other forms of information from. How do you, for lack of better words, an employee of one of the best media outlets on the planet, deal with that, knowing in the back of your mind that, further consolidation could impact the work that I do and how I do it?
Well, it's a great question. Right now, one of the strange things about what happened with MS Now, we were MSNBC, is that we actually got a little more independent, right? Wow. Because what happened was we were part of NBC Universal. We were part of NBC, and that was part of NBC Universal, and that was part of Comcast. So there's enormous media company. And, in some ways that has its own benefits because it's a big, powerful company. And if the White House comes after you, there's going to be big, powerful lawyers there. And
right.
The new company we're part of, which is called Versant, is a much smaller company. and we're a much bigger part of it. And, we've been doing this really cool thing that we've been building out a newsroom from scratch because we separated from NBC. So we've hired a bunch of reporters. We staffed a whole new newsroom. We've got people around the country. So we're approaching it like we have this opportunity to basically be a kind of independent media,
Okay.
And in which our fate rides or dies on our audience. That's, are people watching the show? Are people consuming the content? Are people interacting with what we are providing? Do they want the information we have and listening to the stories we're telling them? That's the mark of success. Now, the second part of your question is, yes, any day it could all go away. Absolutely. I know that. I'm totally unromantic about all this. Yes, someone could come and buy us up and shut us down tomorrow, or someone could buy us up in a year and be like, now you're a pro-Trump network. And I just say peace. But you can't, seriously, you just, anyone who operates in the media knows that is a possibility, but you can't let that affect you. I think about COVID all the time in 2020 because it was it was so outside all of our experience. And I think about things that in the January of 2020, I was stressing about in the future. Mm-hmm. So I got to travel a lot this year and it's election year. And all that stress was for naught. It turned out there was a global pandemic and I didn't even know to stress about that. That really taught me a lesson about borrowing trouble from the future.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Someone could come tomorrow. I could get a terrible diagnosis tomorrow. We could every day that's given to us is a blessing. So I don't worry about that at all. I really don't, just because it's I've been lucky to do this for 13 years. I'll do it as long as I can do it and feel like what I'm doing, I'm proud of, and then I'll stop doing it.
Yeah, there you go. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. And now our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
It's the Paulacious One, coming to you from the file room of the basement of WCPT 820 in Chicago. Checking the file on the Sports Cubicle. The hosts, systems analyst Mike Mercado, project manager Devin Tingle, the marvelous one, Dan Marver in accounting, and me, well, it doesn't matter what I do. You can check us out, the Sports Cubicle, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central on WCPT 820 Chicago. Gotta go, Sports Cubicle, 9 p.m. Sundays, WCPT.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container, because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Hey, progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Choose Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Choose Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's candidate interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Take it away, Richard.
Guess who I'm talking to? Chris Hayes. We are all in. How about that, Chris? Man, your work is great. And I know that I could fan guy out all day about it. But at the end of the day, so many people appreciate the work that you've done for these 13 years. So I have to ask you this question because I always look at the shoulders that we stand on. And you made reference a little bit to this earlier. But when you look at the work that you've done, you look at your 13 years, who have been and who are the folks that you look back and rear back and say, these are kind of my bright lights, my mentors, my guides, that have really helped you along and do the great work that you do?
The number one would be Rachel Maddow, who really has been a mentor. Me learn how to do. She would definitely be the number one. I had a bunch of great mentors in Chicago, actually, when I came up as a journalist. Folks at the Chicago Reader, particularly a guy named Mike Miner, who passed away.
I remember. Yeah.
Wrote the what was his media column? I forget the name of it. He also a great Chicago Reader writer. Rick Perlstein from Chicago, a great historian. Katrina Vanden Heuvel at The Nation, who sort of took me on. So those are some of them, particularly in my earlier days. And all those people. In terms of TV, it's really Rachel. I mean, she's the one that really helped me learn how to do television.
Yeah,
and was there, So she's really the one.
Yeah, she's like everybody's favorite. When she was in Chicago a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, with her book Prequel, my wife and I had a chance to go and see her, and it was just electrifying to see her here in Chicago. She's Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Like there's talent is not evenly distributed, and it's not. I mean, I'm proud of what I do. I think I'm pretty good at it. But got a 12-year-old son who plays AAU basketball. Sometimes you go on the court and there's just one kid on that court that's just they're a standard deviation above everyone else on the court. And that's true all the way up to the highest levels of the NBA. And that's just true in our business too. And that's what she is. There's just a difference. Yeah. And it's great to acknowledge that, because then you can still be in the I guess the mindset or the mode of learning. I'm a geek for people who write stuff, particularly books. I still like to get the book. I have more books, real books, than I do those on my Kindle, even though I do have some. And you were brave enough to write a great one recently, The Sirens Call. What was the motivation behind it? And I got to tell you, I haven't read it in its entirety, but I tend to go through books based on what's in the table of contents. And I sometimes read books in the reverse order or kind of jump in the middle because that caught my eye. But I really like Reclaiming Our Minds, because right now that's something that we have to do. But talk about the book, Chris. What took you to the point where you said, I want to write this particular message?
The book's about the attention economy and about attention is the most important resource that we, particularly the defining resource of this. There's been this transformation where it's not like a physical substance like oil that's the most important thing. It's where we put our mind. And that resource is so precious because it's also indistinguishable from what it is to be a sovereign person. Indistinguishable from our will, from our foundation. Where you put your mind is what you do with your life.
Yeah.
And we live in an environment in which increasingly that's under assault because there's entire technology and market systems set up to essentially extract that away from us against our will. So the book is about how that came to be, what its implications are, and again, what are the steps we take? One of them, I think, actually buying and reading physical books, so that you're just there with the text and you are going to be working on your own will to keep reading, to try to reclaim our minds from the clutches of people that want to take it away.
Yeah, it's a great title, and I'm working my way through it. But I confess that I've done this for years. I will start, at a particular chapter and read there, and then bounce around. And Reclaiming Our Minds is really one that caught me. It's been great chatting with you, and I hope we get a chance to do it again. And
you bet.
You've been an inspiration. You used the words earlier, but you've been an inspiration to so many people as well, and kind of a centering, a rudder in many cases, where you present to us what not what we need to see necessarily, but in many cases what we don't recognize that we need to see and hear. So kudos to you for that type of journalism and that type of reporting. How can people follow you on social media? I mean, I know they know how to find you by watching your show, but how can they follow you on social media?
Chris L. Hayes on Instagram, I guess TikTok and X, and Blue Sky and Threads. I'm Chris L. Hayes everywhere. And thanks. What you said means a lot. I really appreciate that. And this was a lot of fun to talk.
Absolutely. Chris Hayes, thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, my man, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
You bet.
All right. Be safe. Bye now.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southwest increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy with a low near 52. Tuesday, another chance for rain, cloudy skies, a high 56 degrees. And Wednesday, partial sunshine, a high of 57. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 54.
My dad served in Vietnam, the 82nd Airborne Division. He never talked about it, and my mom knew not to ask. So Dad buried himself in work and self-medicated, and would lose his temper sometimes. Loud noises would put him on edge. It got rough. So I finally said to him, Dad, you gotta get help.
As a family member or friend, you may be the first to notice when a veteran you love has been going through changes. Things like withdrawing, drinking more, or increased anger could be a sign of a larger health concern, but help is available.
Dad finally went to VA for one-on-one and group therapy and got some really great tools to help him manage things. And I got my dad back.
Listen to hundreds of inspiring stories at maketheconnection.net and learn how you can support the veterans in your life. Treatment works. Recovery is possible.
Remember when you get to work to hop over to WCPT820.com or the TuneIn Radio app and stream The Stephanie Miller Show. Weekdays 8 to 11 a.m. on Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter.
You're listening to WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk station, where facts matter and truth always wins. Stay informed, stay engaged.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
You're listening to Chew's Views with Richard Chew. Take it away, Richard.
Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito is back, and her guests are Carolyn Shapiro, professor of law and co-director of the Institute on Supreme Court in the United States. Joe Brancatelli will be with her as well, his travel newsletter, and media watchers Jennifer Schulze and Mark Jacob. That's Live, Local, Progressive here on WCPT AM 820, and of course our heartlandsignal.com and TuneIn locations as well. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be talking to Ohio State Representative Danny Isaacson, minority leader of the Ohio House, and Dan Schaefer, civic media political editor and founding editor of the Recombination area in Wisconsin. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And tomorrow on Choose Views, Sean McCann, Michigan State Senator and candidate for U.S. House in the 4th District of Michigan, Anderson Clayton, who's a chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, and Amy McDonald, host of The Foolish Optimist with Amy McDonald. Speaking of hosts, this gentleman's been with us a whole bunch of times. And as I say, respectfully and funfully, he's got a lot to say about a lot of things. Welcome to the show, the host of Endless Urgency, Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike. Welcome back to the show.
Morning, buddy.
Hey, man.
How are you?
I'm good. It's great to hear your voice. Glad you're doing well. I'm a little disappointed though that you did not step in the way of Joe Biden's foibles and make sure that Spirit Airlines didn't go under. I mean, what the hell, Mike? I mean, you're a strong, capable guy. I mean, you should have stopped it from happening, and then they wouldn't have blamed Joe Biden for it again. Give me a break.
That dastardly Joe Biden, if he would just get out of Donald Trump's way, he'd be the most successful president in American history. But he just keeps showing up.
He'd be the grand poobah of everything because everything's his damn fault. I mean,
I know.
Mike, come on, man. Talk to us about this for a second. I mean, Joe Biden is blamed for Spirit Airlines going out of business by the White House. Meanwhile, the folks at Spirit Airlines have said, because they understand how to run a business successfully, or at least to this point, or at least understand what the problems are, that it wasn't anything other than, or primarily at this point, the fact that this war in Iran has caused them to be put in these crosshairs.
Yep.
Give us your observations about the blame game. That's the bigger arch here, is a blame game about everything.
Yeah. So these MAGA influencers, these MAGA politicians, they've really only got two moves right now. And anytime anything goes wrong, they either blame Joe Biden or they blame it on DEI. And it's just so ridiculous. And that's how stupid they think the American people are. And just to give you an example before I get into Spirit, I did Piers Morgan's YouTube show the other day and debated with Clay Travis and Ben Ferguson, some of these other guys. And we were talking about the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And they blamed it on DEI. They said because there are female Secret Service agents, Donald Trump is not safe. And so we have to get rid of all the female Secret Service agents, which is just really crazy and stupid for a bunch of people that, including myself, don't know anything about how to keep the president of the United States safe. Like, I am not a security expert. I don't know why they bring us on to talk about this stuff, but they do. With Spirit Airlines here, like, Spirit's been on the brink of bankruptcy for a long time. Obviously, the Republicans are trying to blame Biden for denying them the merger with Jet. And the merger would have been bad for consumers. It would have just reduced their options. It would have made flying more expensive. It would have been a mess. And Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden were right to reject that. Then to blame them for Spirit Airlines closing abruptly over the weekend is absurd, when Spirit Airlines themselves will tell you it is because of fuel costs. And if you look at it, gas, diesel, fertilizer prices, a whole bunch of other prices, they're skyrocketing right now. Diesel prices are hitting record highs right now. And in a couple of weeks, you're going to be experiencing that at the grocery store when it makes everything more expensive. And the White House is in complete denial about that. So they fall back on the only thing they know how to do, which is to blame the last guy. Joe Biden is not responsible for why Donald Trump's approval rating is in the low 30s at best. Like, he's not responsible for this. There's plenty of things we can talk about that Joe Biden did right or wrong. This has nothing to do with him. And Trump should really, as the leader of the party of personal responsibility, they will lecture us about that all the time when it's relevant to attacking, in their own words, like they'll call welfare queens and personal responsibility and go get a job. But when anything is on their shoulders, nothing. They take no responsibility.
Not at all. And by the way, one of our engineers here says that he hopes that you, as I like to, these are my words, put your foot in Clay, and you did his tail end, which you tend to do. I think that they're gluttons for punishment. Don't they? Have they not watched you on various shows?
I'm currently banned on Fox News. I think I'm not allowed back. It's been months since they've allowed me back on. But no, these guys, they don't have enough self-reflection to understand that they're losing. Like, they walk away from these shows and go, I nailed that. Like, I'm amazing. Look how happy Daddy Trump is going to be with me. So they have me back on because I'm giving them what they want, which is they can go back to their echo chamber and, sell it to their audience as dumb liberal cis thing that they don't like. But, I'm out there talking to regular folks. Like, when I go on TV, I'm not talking to the base. I'm talking to, like, folks that are getting screwed in this economy right now. And I care a lot more about them than I do about the stupid back and forth politics, at least to the extent I can stay away from it.
Well, I asked a question earlier in the show. And my question of the day was how we've all looked at the numbers on a global basis or a larger scale when it comes to the money that's been spent on this war, the $25 billion. And you've heard me do this in a very simplified way, break that down over the 25 largest cities in America and give each of them $1 billion and watch how that city changed. But I asked the question, Mike, how has this war specifically or personally impacted you as a listener? And here's some of the things that I got just real quickly that you can tap into. Well, one gentleman says that the price of gas is the most obvious and the amount of money that he makes per year. But the big one is the driving back and forth that goes on and the fact that they worry about as we get closer to winter, now that we're in summer or approaching spring and summer here in the upper Midwest, we're going to be okay from a non-heating standpoint. But what happens when we get into the late fall and through next winter? So that's an immediate concern. One of the other ones that I received, let's see this real quickly, says that we farm, and the cost of diesel fuel, fertilizer, and gas is a triple whammy. And it affects every single thing that we do, Richard. So those things are the real substantive things that the White House they can't talk about. And I'm going to give a comparison, Mike. I saw an interview on MS Now that was interviewing some people in the Villages community down in Florida. And this one's just, I can't let this one go. The guy was probably in his late 60s, maybe early 70s, I don't know. But he was interviewed and asked the question, what are your thoughts about the war and cost? And he said, yeah, I know gas is up $1, $1.50, a gallon, but it's the price that we have to pay for our safety here in America. And if we have to keep paying that, then I'm supporting Donald Trump because I believe he's got our best interests at heart. And I sat there and I thought, wow, the disconnect and the privilege and the comfort that this person showed wasn't astonishing. It was just a reminder that a lot of people aren't talking about farming costs, diesel costs, fertilizer costs, because they don't have to. And the White House is kind of in that same general category. They don't have to talk about those costs right now. They can talk about how painful it needs to be for everybody and just hold on a little bit longer until we decide that we're going to stop acting like damn fools.
Yes and no. I mean, to that person in the Villages, I would say, God love you. I'll quote Joe Biden for a second. These people, a lot of them are just trapped in a media ecosystem. They've built their own little safe spaces for them. So social media algorithms and Fox News and conservative radio make sure you never have to hear somebody else's opinion. It's actually why I like going out and doing these right-wing shows, because even if I don't agree with them, it's useful to be yelled at in a bad take so that I can better articulate how I view things. But look, the situation with this war, separate out the fact that the war is illegal, it is immoral, we have accomplished nothing. We've gotten at minimum 13 American servicemen and women killed. And I asked the question that my buddy Adam Mockler asked on CNN Friday to Scott Jennings that made him blow up and caused an internet S-storm over the weekend. What have we accomplished here? Nobody can articulate that. Nobody can tell me what we've won. You can't tell me how an American is safer. You can't tell me how the people of Iran are more free. All I see is a bunch of corruption, market manipulation, and Donald Trump's kids going on CNBC to brag about how they sold drone strike technology to help in the war to the Pentagon. I wonder how they were able to get that through. But 1 out of 4 farmers right now does not have fertilizer. How do you think that's going to impact the economy in the coming weeks and months? It's going to decimate the Midwest. It is going to decimate American consumers who are already paying more at the pump. Diesel prices are going to do that too, thanks to transportation costs. Gas prices are stretching people thin. And the president of the United States this weekend basically called inflation BS. He says it's not real. It's not a real thing. It's not something people are experiencing. And for Trump, you can gaslight people into believing a lot of stuff, but you can't gaslight them into believing the economy is strong. Not with this job market, not with this inflation, not with everything else that's going on. It's a disaster. They have no plan. And until they look in the mirror and try to figure out a way to increase wages or create jobs or decrease prices, they're going to get creamed in the midterms, and they deserve what's coming for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are latching onto that. We're going to take a quick break, Mike, because when we come back, I want to ask you a question about something that you posted as it relates to what you just said about the Republicans getting, and I haven't heard that phrase in a long time, going to get creamed in the midterms. Let's take a quick break, guys. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with Mike Nellis, and we'll be right back.
It's time to spring into deals for Mother's Day at Lowe's. Shop select 1.5-gallon annuals hanging baskets, 2 for $15, and get Mom the perfect addition for her garden for less. Plus, get 3 free bags of Miracle-Gro 0.75 cubic foot garden soil when you buy 3. Mom's garden is winning with these deals. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/6, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Women can have it all, including heart attacks. But symptoms like jaw pain, nausea, unusual fatigue, dizziness, and backache are often different and more subtle than for a man. The fact is, heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Know the signs. Learn more at getheartchecked.org. From Women's Heart Alliance, in partnership with Women Heart.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. The owners of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream, Magnum Ice Cream Company, is currently silencing them. Now, why would they silence Ben & Jerry's? Oh yeah, that's right, because they were speaking negatively about the Trump administration, and even prevented the company from releasing a flavor titled Peace in Gaza. Ben Cohen, the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's, has started a hashtag Free Ben & Jerry's to get their rights to speech back. Magnum Ice Cream Company owns several brands, so instead of talking about the brands that they own, let's talk about some ice cream companies that they don't own that are all for free speech. Johnny Pops, Dove Ice Cream, Tillamook, Häagen-Dazs. And for those of you who prefer frozen yogurt, Stonyfield. And if you still want to give Ben & Jerry's a chance, that's up to you. But make sure you only buy Ben & Jerry's and none of the other brands owned by Magnum Ice Cream Company. So maybe, just maybe, then they'll realize that people like their ice cream without a side of fashion. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
No fake news here. It's Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chew's Views. I'm Richard Chew, and we are talking with Mike Nellis, who is the host of Endless Urgency podcast, and just so many other great things that Mike does in terms of the shows that he's on and people that he talks to. Mike, I dare say that if you and I were to go on one of these shows together as a tandem, there's some guys that would probably wet their pants because you and I would get, in some cases, we get to curse a little bit. So
it would be electric. We could sell tickets. We could pay off the debt.
We could. We really could. You talked about this before we went to the break in terms of the Republicans getting creamed. I love that. You got to hashtag that one, man. We're getting that's like a. I didn't think you were old enough to get to have an association with that, but that's a great one.
I grew up watching Nick at Night, so my vocabulary is
there. You go.
Okay, peak 60s and 70s.
Okay,
all in the family and good times.
Yeah. You were talking about them getting creamed in the midterms, and I agree, and they deserve it. And the country deserves better. We can go down. That's a whole other thing. But one of the things that you said that I thought was really spot on as it relates to the pull is it's not hard to understand what's happening in the MAGA media ecosystem. The influencers have broken from Donald Trump, like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, are growing their audience. The people who have stuck with them, very unpopular president like Shapiro and Laura Loomer, are watching their engagement decelerate dramatically. So give us your take on why that's happening and how that sort of merges up with what's happening with the GOP at large.
Yeah, well, it's very evident that there's a tremendous MAGA civil war going on right now, and you see Candace Owens is fighting Laura Loomer, and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson are fighting the Daily Wire guys, and it's just so ridiculous. But really the fault line is very obvious, is who can read a poll and understand that we are approaching the post-Trump world. That's really all that it is. Whether it's tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now, Donald Trump is increasingly becoming irrelevant. He's still going to be president for the next 2.5 years. I'm sorry to anybody hoping that something happens to him, but I don't think anything's going to happen to him. He's going to be around, but he's a lame duck president. And I remember from the Bush years, the moment that George W. Bush became a lame duck and everybody stopped caring about what he and his administration were doing. That is going to happen. Doesn't mean we shouldn't try to stop as much of it as we can, but that's what's going on right now. And so for Loomer, who is a close personal advisor to Trump with an odd relationship that, for the sake of the words that I can use, I will not talk about on the radio. Her numbers are down. Like, she's doing live streams right now on X she's got millions of followers. She's getting 300 people to tune in because people can't stand her selling them pro-Trump slop anymore. Ben Shapiro has seen like an 85% reduction in his engagement. He's losing tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube every single day. I am a much smaller YouTuber with like 130,000 subscribers, and I'm getting as much engagement right now as Ben Shapiro is. And that's crazy. Like, I'm a fraction of his size. So meanwhile, Tucker Carlson's breaking records. Nick Fuentes, by the way, these are not good people. I'm not praising Tucker Carlson. I'm not praising Nick Fuentes. I don't like either of them. I think Fuentes in particular is a very bad human being. But they're growing, and they're seeing huge numbers. And so it tells you that the MAGA movement is shifting away. And especially for Tucker and Nick Fuentes, who have a lot of men under 40 in their audience, men under 40 in particular, based on the polling, are the group of people who have turned against Trump the most because he promised them what? Two things. I'm going to help you get a good paying job so you can buy a house and start a family and retire with dignity. And I'm not going to send you to go die in another forever war in the Middle East. He's broken both those promises. So it's just revealing about where the MAGA movement is, where the Trump presidency is, because they act as if he's so popular and everything he does is amazing. And we're living this golden age in America. But when you look, you see cracks everywhere in this movement.
That's why I wanted to ask you that question, because, you know, a lot of people have said for the longest time that the Democrats, and this is true in part, the percentage is really not so much part of this conversation today, that the Democrats didn't talk to those audiences. And to the extent that they did or that they did not, they're breaking away. And I wanted to get your take on if that's real, that I won't say it's their core group, but a core group of the listeners to those influencers, as well as the voters who voted for Trump and the rest of the GOP, if that's a real thing or not. And it seems as though it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely a real thing because, one, the way that the media landscape works now is like you can just pick your flavor of person and never have to hear anybody who disagrees with you. And Democrats have made over the last decade an intentional decision not to engage with audiences that we disagree with. And so most Democrats won't go on Fox News. Nobody will go on Newsmax. Like, I'm the only Democrat that goes on Newsmax half the time. Okay. Yeah. At least the ones that can talk effectively about what we believe in and go and throw some punches. I mean, over there, and this is not a joke, they call me Mad Dog Mike Nellis. And all I do is come in and go, hey, have you noticed gas prices are high? And they're like, oh, Mike, what are you talking about? Like, they're absurd. But I go there. I did 2 podcasts last week with some right-wing hosts and debated some couple YouTubers and stuff like that. I'll go anywhere. Like, Fuentes lives in the city of Chicago. Like, if he picks up the phone and calls me and says, you want to come over and let's do a stream together? The answer to that will be yes. Now, I'm not going to go kiss up to him and tell him that I think he's a good dude. No, I'm going to call him and tell him exactly how I feel about him to his face. And we can debate these issues on race and gender and Trump and everything else and the war in Iran and all that. I'm happy to talk to him about it because people need to hear what we actually believe in. The Republican Party, they create a fake image of what a Democrat is, what we believe in, what we care about, how we talk, and then they'll only invite a handful of people that'll be like, the sort of idea on the internet of like the blue-haired liberal, the nose piercing and stuff like that. They'll invite those people on, and the rest of my party's too afraid, and they'll say, Mike, if you go on Tucker Carlson's show, you're platforming Tucker Carlson. And I go, Tucker Carlson's audience is about 100 times larger than mine is. I can't platform somebody with a bigger audience. He's platforming me to his audience. When I go on Newsmax, I'm not making Newsmax more legitimate. Newsmax is already legitimate whether I like it or not. When you fly to New York City and you're in the back of a cab, you know what you see on those little screens they have back there? News bites from Newsmax all throughout New York City. So it's not going anywhere. That audience isn't going anywhere. Meet people where they are. This is part of the reason the Democrats lost in 2024 is like Kamala Harris didn't go on Joe Rogan, didn't go on Theo Von. Trump went everywhere. He did. And we got to be better about that because we're losing people. And then you add on one layer on top of that, too, is there are manufacturing towns that have been decimated and rural communities where they haven't seen or heard from a Democrat in decades. So they believe things about us that aren't true. And most importantly, they believe that we don't care about them because we don't show up for them. And that's a problem. We got to start showing up.
I think that a lot of people are frustrated with the fact that we have to, what's the word I want to use? We have to walk and chew gum and balance out how we do this. I'm a big believer that we can criticize and compliment at the same time. I think a lot of times Democrats are afraid to do that. We're going to have pushback, and we have pushback when you go in unfamiliar, not normal spaces. Part of the challenge is that I think that Democrats are oftentimes too worried about what they're really thinking versus what they're really saying being heard. If they say, many of the Democrats that are running for office or that are in office were to say what they're actually thinking, it would shock a lot of people, but in a good way. And so that's the thing that I think that they get too caught up in, is worrying about what people are going to think about what they're thinking versus about accepting what they're saying. Go ahead.
I'll go a layer deeper on that. I think most Democratic politicians and a lot of the influencers don't actually know what they believe in. So they've got to wait for the next tracking poll or focus group to tell them what they care about. And I read all that stuff too, but I know, like, you and I didn't talk about topics before we hopped on, right? Like, this is the same conversation you and I would be having over a pint at the bar. So it isn't I know what I can talk about. I know what I believe in. And very few people, I think, inside the Democratic Party's talking ecosystem, whatever you want to describe, whatever we're building here, can actually do that. And so it makes them uncomfortable to go, I got to be perfectly prepped to go to this place and talk about this thing. And I have to get all my P's and Q's right and be like, no, people are looking for authenticity. The whole system is broken. Institutional trust is gone. People are only trusting individuals. So show up in a room and show them that you care about them. Show them that you're serious. Show them that you're going to work hard. Show them that you can talk like a regular person. And you're going to be fine whether you're in downtown Chicago, whether you're on the north side or the south side, whether or not you're in rural America or you're in a manufacturing town. Like, just show up for people and be a regular human being. And by the way, listen too. Listen to what their problems are, because I would argue the average Democratic consultant, politician, talking head doesn't understand why somebody in a rural community doesn't trust Democrats, doesn't understand why they stick with Trump for so long. And it's because Trump speaks to them. Whether I agree with that or not is irrelevant. He makes them feel heard in a way that we don't.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that the over preparation, it takes away from then time back to what I said, which is people want to hear what you're actually thinking, not what you're. And it's a weird sort of thing, and I know it's nuanced, and maybe I slipped too far in the weeds on that, but I think that's where we've got to go, and it seems as though we are making some strides in that space, Mike, and I think that you and I've talked about this before privately, that as people start to recognize that the wins are real, that it's been largely because of Trump and the GOP and their disaster, but it's also been because some Democrats are listening and saying, yeah, you know what, we didn't listen before, we didn't go here before, we didn't make the steps before, and it's happening. We just want to see, we being me and Mike, want to see more of it happen more frequently, more regularly, and not have this sort of yo-yo of, well, we'll go in here, but we won't go in there. We'll go in here, we won't go in there. I think we go every place. We go everywhere. Yeah. And that.
What did Hakeem Jeffries say? That got him in trouble with the Trump people last week. But it's maximum warfare all the time, everywhere. Like, we go everywhere. We stand on our laurels. We believe the things that we say. We know that our policies are better. And then we have to deliver for people is the other thing, too.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned earlier, like, Trump is going to get whooped. He's going to get creamed in this midterm election, and it's very deservingly so. Democrats are going to win, and I would argue we don't deserve the win yet. We don't. Now, there's only two places to go.
Not ready for it, you mean? Not ready for being prepared?
We're not ready for it.
Okay.
I don't know that we deserve it either. But, like, when we win, we got to be prepared to deliver for people, because the number one complaint you hear about the Democratic Party is they seem well-meaning, but they can't get anything done. Yeah. And that's a huge problem, because people think the Republicans can get stuff done, and they can. Unfortunately, it's all horrible, but we got to prove we can get stuff done.
Stuff done that matters for people who got them there in the first place. I agree. Last thing, real quick, and I know I shouldn't have thrown this at you at the last bit, but do you think that the Supreme Court's weakening of the voting rights is going to backfire on the Republican Party?
I think it's entirely possible, if they decide to redistrict deeply and then we have a D+12 election, that it's going to be awfully bad for them. What they did in Texas in particular, I think opens Democrats up to winning a lot of seats that otherwise would not have been available to them had they not decided to extreme gerrymander the state in a really volatile situation for them. I think where it backfires more, though, is that if this Supreme Court, which in my opinion is an illegal and corrupt Supreme Court that was been stolen by Donald Trump, if they're going to go this far, they continue to create the justification for Democrats to add additional seats to the Supreme Court and to be aggressive in using their powers, because we have to reestablish the balance of the Supreme Court. This is absurd, the rulings that they are making and the power that they have given to the executive branch. Fixing that has to be a priority for the next Democratic president.
Mike Nellis, y'all, endless urgency, and it's great to hear your voice. I'm glad you're doing well. Glad your health is good. You know, I'm a big fan of you getting better and doing better. Stay well, my friend, and we will talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you. Talk soon, buddy.
All right, bye now. Guys, thanks for hanging with us today. Mike Nellis, of course, was just with us. We had Chris Hayes from MS Now and candidate in Ohio, Molly Schneider, here this morning on Choose Views. Thanks for being with us, as always. And what I will tell you is, stay tuned for what? The Stephanie Miller Show and all of our shows. Where else? Why would you go anyplace else? Take a deep breath, y'all, and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
Paulacious One, coming to you from the file room of the basement of WCPT 820 in Chicago. Checking the file on the sports cubicle. The hosts, systems analyst Mike Mercado, project manager Devin Tingle, the marvelous one, Dan Marver in accounting, and me, well, it doesn't matter what I do. You can check us out, the sports cubicle, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Central on WCPT 820 Chicago. Gotta go, sports cubicle, 9 p.m. Sundays, WCPT.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
For the ones who get it done, Grainger offers the professional-grade products you need, delivered when and where you need them. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The U.S. military is denying claims that Iran struck a Navy vessel. On social media, U.S. Central Command said no U.S. Navy ships have been struck. Iranian news agencies had claimed Iran struck a U.S. vessel near an Iranian port southeast of the strait, accusing it of violating maritime security and navigation norms. The reports say the vessel was forced to turn back. Oil prices initially jumped 5% on the reports, but are now trading between 2% and 3% higher after the U.S. military denied the attack. Yesterday, President Trump announced a new initiative for U.S. forces to guide commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has, over the past 2 months, attacked some vessels and blocked others that don't receive its authorization. The new U.S. initiative could involve guided missile destroyers, more than 100 aircraft, and about 15,000 service members. But officials have not specified what kind of assistance it would provide. In other news, the Supreme Court is being asked to restore access to an abortion pill by mail.
Two makers of the widely used abortion pill mifepristone asked the Supreme Court to block a lower court's ruling cutting off mail-order access to the drug. Saturday's emergency request came a day after the federal appeals court's ruling the biggest jolt to abortion policy in the U.S. since overturning Roe v. Wade. Friday's ruling is in effect while the case works its way through the courts. It affects patients in all states, even those without abortion restrictions. Danko Labs asked for the block, telling SCOTUS the appellate ruling injects immediate confusion and upheaval into highly time-sensitive medical decisions. GenBioPro made a similar request. I'm Julie Walker.
This is AP News.
AP Sports, I'm Gethin Cool Ball. The Pistons completed their rally from a 3-1 series deficit, defeating the Magic 116-94 in Game 7 to advance with their first playoff win in 18 years. Cade Cunningham had 32 points and 12 assists.
It made us really reflect on how we were playing, what got us to this position, and what made us win as many games as we won in the regular season. And, it got us back to playing the basketball that we knew we were capable of.
The Cavs beat the Raptors 114-102 in their Game 7 to advance. Stanley Cup playoffs, Alex Newhook broke a tie with 8:53 left, and the Canadians outlasted the Lightning 2-1 in Game 7 to end their thrilling first-round series. In golf, Cameron Young finished 6 shots clear of Scotty Scheffler to win the Cadillac Championship, and Chase Elliott won at Texas to join Tyler Reddick as multiple NASCAR Cup Series winners this season.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high into the upper 70s. Winds out of the southwest increased around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 30. And then for tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy with a low near 52. Tuesday, another chance for rain, cloudy skies, a high 56 degrees. And Wednesday, partial sunshine, a high of 57. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 54.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Spring is here and summer heat is right around the corner. Is your home ready to stay cool and energy efficient? At Green Attic, they help Chicagoland homeowners prepare their homes for rising temperatures. With over 15 years of experience and more than 1,000 five-star reviews, Green Attic is a trusted expert in attic insulation, blow-in cellulose, spray foam, crawl space encapsulation, mold remediation, and solar attic fan installation. When the sun heats up your attic, that trapped heat can force your air conditioner to work overtime. Proper insulation and ventilation helps keep your home cooler and lowers your energy bills. Green Attic also offers full-service roofing through Green Attic Roofing, including asphalt shingles, flat roofs, Da Vinci, Brava, Cedar, Tesla solar roof, and solar panels options, all backed by the industry's 10-year labor warranty. Spring is the perfect time to fix insulation problems and aging roofs before the summer heat and storm season arrive. Schedule your free insulation consultation today at greenattic.com or get an instant roofing estimate at greenatticroofing.com. Green Attic, healthy home, happy family.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country volunteered to join the fight, despite the United States Army being heavily segregated. Black enlistees were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, who knew of the racism and pushed his soldiers to achieve excellence. The 761st Tank Battalion was formed in the spring of 1942. It contained 30 black officers, 6 white officers, and 676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms with a panther on it and the slogan, "Come Out Fighting." And in 1944, the 761st was assigned to General George Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. And by the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT